What's up guys, welcome to this issue of Motive Garage. Once again, we're working on our R32 GT-R. Now if you saw the last episode on the car, you would have seen that we came oh so close to that magical 10-second pass. Now with 136 miles an hour, we weren't worried about the power. What we are worried about is getting a better launch. So we're at Sydney Suspension and Auto Care to install a few new parts, change the setup, and see if we can go back and crack that oh so magical 10-second pass on low mount turbos.
On our previous trip to the drag strip, we were only running 1.960 foot times due to wheel spin and axle tramp. The long first gear in a GT-R on a sticky track means you need lots of revs, which leads to wheel spin in first gear, and due to too much negative camber on the rear and being too low, the car doesn't hook back up and axle tramps in the process. Another problem we noticed was that the car was starting to bottom out in the front over bumps when hard cornering. To fix all of these problems, we needed to raise the car 10 to 15 millimeters. Raising the car will help give the shock more travel, help dampen the axle tramp better, stop the bottoming out over bumps, and give better suspension geometry and improve the roll centre. We also bought some adjustable rear camber arms, as the factory adjustment simply isn't enough. They are pretty straightforward to install. With the hard work done, it was time to get it on the wheel aligner. The front was simply a case of toe and go. While on the rear, we had to totally reset the camber and toe. Previously, we had over 3 degrees negative camber, and under squat, this would increase even further, reducing grip. We backed it off to 1/2 degree negative camber. We could have gone less if the car was just for drag racing, but we've set it up for handling, more specifically for the toe game. Next on our list was the driveline. The NPC single plate clutch we were running previously handled over 2 years of 300 kilowatts and over with hundreds of launches. But once power was up to 383 kilowatts, we were simply asking too much of it, and after the trip to the drag strip, it started to slip. We've also had an R34 GT-R 6-speed sitting in the garage for over a year, so it was time to install it and fit a twin plate clutch at the same time. There are 2 reasons to switch to an R34 GT-R Getrag 6-speed gearbox. Firstly, they are stronger, both gears and synchros, and we all know how weak third gear is in a GT-R. Secondly is the gear ratios. Obviously having 6 speeds instead of 5 gives a better spread of gears, but we decided to go one better and keep the factory R32 GT-R DIFF gears and have even closer ratios again. This table shows the difference between the 5-speed and 6-speed gear ratios. While this table shows the speed at 8,000 RPM in each gear for the 5-speed, 6-speed, and the 6-speed using the R32 GT-R's 4.1 diff ratio. A lot of people don't understand how much the gear ratios affect performance. If you've ever seen the in-car footage of the Mines R34 GT-R, you'll understand. Response can be drastically improved and the car feels a lot faster, making it much more fun. Some people express their concerns for engine speeds while cruising, but this table shows the engine speed at 110 kilometers per hour using our 265/40 18-inch tyres. Not as bad as many would expect. So what do you need for the 6-speed conversion? You'll obviously need a complete R34 GT-R gearbox and transfer case along with the gear shifter, an R34 GT-R clutch, R34 GT-R flywheel bolts, an R34 GT-R carrier, clutch fork bearing, and also the slave cylinder, or you can do what we did and add a pull-to-push converter. You'll need an R34 GT-R gearbox crossmember and some spaces to go under it to get the angle of the engine right. You'll also need the R34 GT-R front shaft, And you'll need to build a new tail shaft that uses the back section and centre bearing from the R32 GT-R, and then splice the R32 and R34 front section. Because the speedo drive is after the gearbox but before the diffs, by keeping the stock diff ratio, the speedo is still correct in the R32 GT-R. It's all pretty straightforward. For the clutch, we chose a Direct Clutch Services 8-inch twin plate, and it's the same style of clutch we run in Jet 200, and we've had excellent results. The flywheel, centre plate and clutch cover is all billet and uses 2 unsprung clutch plates. It's available in different putt counts, clamping forces, and can be optioned to suit 600 horsepower up to 1200 horsepower and over for street or race applications. Direct Clutch Services can also build it to suit any engine and gearbox application. We wanted ours not only to cope with our current power, but any increased power in the future, which it should have no problem doing. So how does it all drive? Firstly, back to Sydney Dragway to look for that 10-second time slip. The car was running on the same tyres and fuel as last time, as was the same weight, so it will make a great back-to-back comparison. Although, it was over 30 degrees, so the car did feel like it was a little down on power. We botched our first run testing out the surface and gear ratios, but we knew it was required for the second.
Well, one of my friends just messaged me saying, good job, bro. So, could be it. Let's get the time slip and see first. 10.929. Yeah, buddy. Yeah. All right, we can go home now. Well, we've finally done it. We've cracked the 10-second barrier in our R32 GT-R project car known as Budget Supercar. We did it pretty much exactly how we drive it on the 123S Achilles tyres on it. It did it pretty easily, actually. Last time we were here, we did 11.1s, 11.2s. We just couldn't get it to 60 very well. But the changes we made at Sydney Suspension have dropped the 60 dramatically down to a 1.656. So we went 10.9 at 131. The mile an hour is down a little bit just simply due to the air temperature because we still ran while the sun was out. Now, as you know, the head's been lifting on this car, but we wanted to crack that 10 with this setup before we move to the new setup, but I'm not going to tell you what that is yet. But the best thing about tonight is we get to put these on. Now, the main reason I wanted to convert to the 6-speed in the GT-R wasn't so much to improve outright acceleration, as my quarter-mile times and 0 to 100 times haven't really changed, obviously due to the fact that you're revving through the gears in every gear. So 5 or 6-speed, not a lot of difference. In fact, the 6-speed has more gear changes, so you could argue that it's slower if the wrong person's driving it. The reason I put the 6-speed in the car and kept 4 1s is after watching the Mines GT-R, I wanted to have awesome response and mid-range in the car. The reason I wanted mid-range is so that you don't have to rev the car to past 8,000 RPM every gear change just so that it stays on boost in the next gear. Because the biggest problem with GT-Rs, especially ones with aftermarket turbos, is the gears are really long and the car is actually, well, it's quite laggy. If you're caught in the wrong gear or the wrong RPM or the wrong speed and you try to get moving, man, they just don't go anywhere. So they're really difficult to keep on the boil, even with just an upgraded set of low mounts. But switching to the 6-speed not only have I got an extra gear, I've got shorter ratios as well. And the benefit is pretty much any speed, any RPM, put your foot down and it gets moving. Well, if I was in third gear with a 5-speed, then it wouldn't have gone anywhere at all, just laggy. So I've come to one of my favorite pieces of road to show you guys how much better it drives with the 6-speed. Now, I'm not here to show you guys how fast it is in terms of outright power, but just how responsive it is. I mean, I can short shift and just get moving, and it absolutely honks this thing any gear, any time. I'm in 5th gear now where normally I'd need 3rd. And the response out of the corner is a weapon. Absolute weapon. Now the car's fast before with a 5-speed, but now tip it in and the revs are pretty much always perfect. Into a tight section of road, can use 3rd gear here now where before even 2nd would be difficult. I can just short shift. Don't have to rev it to 8 grand. And look at the response now. Put your foot down and you've almost got too much power for some of these twisties. It is unreal. Look at that. But you cruise along in 6th gear still at 60 k's an hour. Doesn't make any noise, nice and quiet. Back to a normal GT-R again. But check that out. 40 k's an hour, 4th gear. So 60 k's an hour, 3rd gear, about 4 grand. Stand on it, and we are out of there. So through here, can just short shift every gear now. I don't need to rev it to 8 grand just to get moving. It is a weapon. I'm probably only driving at 70%. Now the scary part is everything I've shown you so far has been on low boost. Watch it on high. Now one great thing about the 6-speed is it feels faster than what it used to because you're rolling through the gears so much, while before you had to rev every gear all the way out. So top of 3rd gear was nearly 175, 180 k's an hour, while now you can give it squirts in the gears and you're not going anywhere near as fast in each gear. So it feels faster. In fact, it just feels like an absolute weapon of a car. And you can short shift and it is unbelievable. Now the last time I came through here with a 5-speed and the suspension set up the way it was before, not only was it laggier and not as fun or responsive, the car was a bit too low, so it used to bump and grind and crash over the suspension, but now since we raised it, it drives better, handles better, doesn't bump, doesn't crash over corners, doesn't scrub when you're flat out. It's got more traction, it's less tail happy, and just a much better car. So the moral of the story is chasing power doesn't always make you faster, and being low certainly doesn't help you be quicker. So we raised the car to be quicker around corners and quicker in a straight line. So it just proves the point that setup is more important than parts or looking cool, and that sometimes gear ratios and mid-range torque makes a faster car than outright power. This car is bordering on absolute perfection for a GT-R street car. It really is. It's responsive, it's comfortable, it's not too loud, mega fast, runs 10s, goes through the twisties with ease. I'm not even trying right now, and it is awesome fun, and it just sticks. Lets me do whatever I want. Now the idea of Project Supercar was to be as fast as a supercar without spending anywhere near as much money, and I can tell you what, through these twisties, It would take a very expensive car to beat it through here. Yes, there's supercars that could probably be as quick, but man, this thing is fast everywhere. To be honest, this phase of Project Supercar is pretty much complete. We've built a car that runs 10s, it's fast through the twisties, it stops well, you can still drive it every day if you wanted to, but we are reaching the limit of what this standard engine can do. We are starting to lift the head a little bit on high boost now. It's stretching the factory head studs. It is a known problem. It is something we were expecting to eventually happen. So it is now time to commence, well, stage 2 for our Project Supercar. We're going to step things up a notch. So we don't want to ruin the package we already have, we just want to enhance it further in stage 2. We want more power, and we need to do a fair bit of mods to do that. And we also want it to brake better, but we don't really need to touch the handling, so I advise you stay tuned. See that? That's how you do it on proper street tyres. Not Mickey Thompson ET streets, not I think I've got radials. They're 123S Achilles tyres. That's what I go through the Nasho on. Isn't that right, Chris?
Yes.
You like that, don't you?